President Trump applauded Ford's new $1.2 billion investment at 3 Michigan plants. He tweeted yesterday, car companies coming back to the U.S., jobs, 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 exclamation point. Last night on the CBS Evening News, Dean Reynolds reported that Ford's investment will only bring about 130 new production jobs. The president's tweet was the latest example of Mr. Trump touting U.S. job creation under his watch.
Jobs are pouring back. You saw what happened with Exxon, where they just announced a massive jobs program. Charter Communications has just committed to investing $25 billion and is committed further to hiring 20,000 American workers over the next 4 years. Since my election, Ford, Fiat Chrysler, General Motors, Sprint, SoftBank, Lockheed, Intel, Walmart, and many others have announced that they will invest billions and billions of dollars in the United States and will create tens of thousands of new American jobs.
Gerald Seib is executive Washington editor-in-chief, commentator for the Wall Street Journal, and joins us from Washington this morning. Jerry, good to see you.
Thank you.
Does the president deserve the credit he appears to be taking for the jobs, jobs, jobs?
Well, he deserves some credit, but I mean, this is a classic case in Trump world in which more credit is being claimed than is probably due. Look, companies make no secret about the fact that they think a deregulatory environment, which the Trump administration is going to create, and the prospect of a big tax cut is encouraging them to invest some more money. But the White House is taking credit for jobs that were going to be created anyway. The Charter Communications jobs were committed to in 2015 as part of a merger. The 4 jobs that the White House is taking credit for were committed to, by and large, as part of a 2015 deal with United Auto Workers. So what's happening right now is I think that a lot of companies are framing decisions they were going to make anyway or had already made as a response to the Trump administration's arrival, and the White House is gobbling that up and taking credit for it. So there's some truth in there, but not as much as you're led to believe.
Jerry, there was a story in the New York Times today about BlackRock, a huge investment and management company, that they are now going to use robots rather than asset managers to manage portfolios, and that therefore they were laying off some employees. How big of impact is technology going to have on job creation?
Well, you know, I think that's the bigger story within this story. You know, there's been a lot of debate about how much job loss there comes from trade, how much job loss comes from unfair competition abroad. But the real job killer in America in a lot of ways, particularly in manufacturing, is automation. You know, a robot comes into a factory, workers go away, and that's happening across the manufacturing sector, and as that BlackRock story indicates, is now seeping into other sectors as well. And so I think that automation is, and its effect on employment, is probably the real story here. It just doesn't get as much attention because the political debate is much more about, for example, trade. But I think increasingly we're going to be seeing questions about what do workers do when automation is the problem, not when Mexico or China is the problem.
Mm-hmm. It's good to hear the president talking up jobs. Any president wants to do that, and Americans respond to that. The question is whether he can deliver on those promises. Yesterday, of course, in announcing, rolling back some of those energy regulations, he talked about putting coal miners back to work. But there's the founder and executive of Murray Energy, which is the largest privately held coal miner in the U.S., said that he told Trump directly, I suggested he temper his expectations. He can't bring them back.
Yeah, well, I happen to know some lawmakers, Republican lawmakers from coal states are telling him the same thing. You know, pull back the rhetoric a little bit because you have to temper the promises. You know, it is true that the coal action will give a reprieve to some coal-fired power plants. And I talked to some people down in Southwest Virginia a couple of weeks ago who said there are some people in the coal industry being called back into work now as a result of all this. But the long-term trends are still the long-term trends. Natural gas supplies are going up because of fracking. The cost of renewable energy sources is going down as the technology improves. And so industry is moving on a long-term path away from coal. That's not going to stop. Again, there's going to be some short-term beneficial impact in the coal industry, but not a change in this long-term trend. And that's what the White House probably needs to keep in mind as it engages in this rhetoric about saving coal jobs.
You know, the president has been known to use his Twitter account when he hears about companies who are, U.S. companies who are saying they're going to take jobs out of the country. Do you think that affects some decisions that companies are planning to make or do make?
You know, I think it probably does. I do think executives sit in the C-suite now and ask themselves, do we want to be put in a position in which we're attacked by the White House for a decision that we might make that's in the margins? On the other hand, if we're going to make a decision that the White House likes, do we not want to get some credit for that? That's a good thing for our company. So I do think it's probably affecting decisions, at least in the margins. But again, you have to distinguish that from long-term trends and things that were going to happen anyway.
All right, Gerald Seib, thank you. Always good to have you here. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, appreciate it.